Hello, Luciani. You plug it. I'll be there as soon as I finish. Okay, so we can begin now. So I warmly welcome you to our last webinar for 2021. A warm welcome to you all. And then I will just project our reflection Could you, Ben or Sophie, could you kindly co-host me to share my share my PowerPoint, please?
I cannot, Kathy. I don't have that.
Kathy, you're the host.
No.
I cannot.
Just a moment.
I'm not.
Oh,
Ben, can you?
just a moment. Who was the? I cannot co-host you here.
Okay, I will try.
Try it.
Yes, okay. I try, Kathy?
Yes, thanks, Sophie.
Okay.
Listen to the mountains, listen to the valleys, listen to the water, listen to the wind, listen to the flowers, listen to their stories, listen when the birds sing, listen to the trees. Each creature has a story, a tale of love to tell. So listen, see, and feel the love of God, they say. Listen to the thunder, listen to a raindrop falling from God's creation. Discover who you are. Listen to the music of the God who loves you. Love notes from the heavens, stars that light the dark. Take the time to notice, read what mind can't fathom. Let God's Spirit lead you. You will find true joy. You will find true joy. You will find true joy.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
Thank you. Now to you, Ben.
Thank you, Kathy. That was a beautiful reflection, a beautiful prayer, which captures our topic for today on integrity of creation, integral ecology, and the spirituality of Father Chevalier. I would like to introduce to you our guest speaker, but I'd like to share something about him. Okay. Father Richie is the director of our Center for the Poor. And let me just look for the and he is a missionary of the Sacred Heart, a young priest, ordained, was it 1990? And he worked for the Communication Foundation for Asia, from where he got into the MSc. And Father Richie became our National Vocation Director prior to his becoming the National Director of our MSc Center for the Poor in Agusan in Butuan. He is also the director of the Farmers Cooperative of the Center for the Poor, which has been recognized by the government, by the Department of Agriculture. And he is also the director of the agricultural school or agricultural institution recognized by TESDA.
What ba lang day? Di na nabitaw ko eh. Webinar day.
Please mute yourself.
Ngayon ko wala pagbalik.
And then Father Richie was also an awardee, a Bayan awardee, for what he has done for the environment, especially the specialization on Bokashi and zero waste management. And his work, which was recognized as along the theme of faith that does justice, preferential option for the poor, love for country, stewardship of creation, and genuine democracy. Father Richie is also a motivational speaker and online lecturer at St. John Mary Vianney on integral ecology. He is now an international speaker and recognized and a resource person of CEDOS in Rome, based in Rome. And he has been invited to various institutions online to speak on his specialization on ecology, integral ecology, the environment, and spirituality of creation. He is an expert on cosmic journey, stewardship of creation. And my dear friends, I present to you now our speaker, Father Richie Gomez, MSc.
Hi, hello, Father Ben, thank you very much. Good morning, good
You're welcome.
afternoon, good evening, and thank you for inviting me, particularly on this topic. Let me share my screen now. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, Father.
Okay, thank you. So this is the last topic, last webinar for this year,
Better, no?
hosted by Carvite.
We already still this full already. We already up to.
Okay. So the topic for this webinar is celebrating the mission of JPIC in the light of the spirituality of the heart, advocacy for human rights and creation. So as the last speaker or presenter, as I found the title or the theme of this webinar, I found it very challenging because there's a lot of points, major points of discussions, and then at the same time, but I find it also so compelling. So what I ask from you is that I ask you to be the one to connect everything. Maybe in your reflection, in your meditation, in your prayer. So, because for example, mission itself, it's a big, huge topic, and JPIC, spirituality of the heart, advocacy, human rights, creation. That's why I said to myself, how I can give, or how can I share this in a one nut or in a capsulated moment, but it's I leave to you how you will integrate all these things. Okay, let's start the ball rolling. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, it says there that God created humankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. He created them. When God saw the valleys, he said, good. The trees, the forest, good. The rivers, the mountains, good. The birds, the plants, the flora and fauna, the oceans, good. And God saw all that he has made. And when God saw human beings, God said, they're very good. There was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. Remember, men and women might have been created by God as the summit, the crown, the climax, the masterpiece of his creation. But this is not the Lord over creation, but to be its steward. So friends, if we have what we call the spirituality of creation, this is it. Our purpose, our reason to be here in this world is no other than but to be a carers or a steward of God's creation. But when I go back to the basic understanding of environmental science, we were taught about this when we were in elementary or grade school, that in the biodiversity, for the world to continue, we need species, we need plants, we need animals. This world needs animals and flora and fauna, birds, trees, water, rivers. As I contemplated this basic understanding of science, I asked myself, where is man in the biodiversity? We have also, bio means life, diverse life, diversity of life. But in this diagram, where is man in this? Where is people? And the world can continue without man, but the world will collapse in just a matter of 4 years if beasts will disappear. For what reason man is so, I'm exaggerating things here, so special, but at the same time, we do not have any value at all in the biodiversity? Was God made just a mistake of putting man or woman at the middle of this garden? Or God is really emphasizing us that putting us at the middle of the garden, humans were put in the garden to be gardeners of this earth. But the problem is that no one of us wants to be gardener. All of us wants to be manager of the garden. Yeah. After the climate change panel in Paris, a prominent scientist said, Gaspeth, we scientists don't know how to do that. I used to think the top environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. I thought that with 30 years of good science, we could address those problems. But I was wrong. The top environmental problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. And to deal with those, we need a spiritual and cultural transformation. And we scientists don't know how to do that. You know, when I encountered this pronouncement, I said to myself, who will do this spiritual and cultural transformation? And there I was affirmed of what I'm doing. I was affirmed, even I was not yet in this ministry. I'm doing and giving talks on environment, giving workshop on ecology. And I said to myself, now I am affirmed, I am in the right direction. Let me bring you to this local scenario in the Philippines on ecological destruction, particularly the mining situation. As of September 2016, there were about 40 metallic mines and 62 non-metallic mines operating in the country. With our 9 million hectares, or 30% of total land area, has metallic mineral deposits. We are in a 5th mineralized country in the world, 3rd in gold, 4th in copper, 5th in
Can you
nickel.
hear Father Richie?
Yes, I can hear you. Am I out? Hello?
No, you're speaking very softly. Can you speak louder?
Oh, no. Yeah. Is this okay now?
Yep.
Okay. So we are 3rd in gold and 4th in copper, 5th in nickel. This is how Philippines so rich. And our mining industry are mainly extractive, export-oriented, dominated by transnational and local mining elite, dependent on foreign capital and technologies. So this is the image of the mining situation in our very own neighboring province in Surigao. And this is at the north, and this is in Cebu, in Loreto Islands, in Surigao, in Davao. And the implication of these operations or industry is the displacements, and they affect the normal life of the indigenous people, to the point that incidents like extrajudicial killings happen, and the displacements of the community. And this happened 4 years ago here in Mindanao. And the struggle to be self-determined as indigenous people. That's why I myself is very active in fact-finding missions and bring out the cry of the Lumads, like save the Lumad school, stop the killings, no to coal mining, and no to food blockage. So aside from mining, what are other extractive industries present in the Philippines? The monoculture plantations. We have these transnational corporations dominating our lands. So the problem, our problem is systemic and structural. Hello.
I already
Okay.
admitted the Surigao group. Go ahead.
Okay. The problem is systemic and structural. Local officials cannot do anything. Father, we're just following orders. It is already in place. People from Dinagat Islands cannot own the title of their land because these islands is reserved for mining. So it's structured already, it's systemic. We have the banana plantation, the pineapple plantations, the palm oil plantations. And what is happening in Indonesia is the same happening in Mindanao. Yes, they are the only one concessioners, the same concessioners, uh, multinational companies, the rubber plantations and the Falcata plantations. And all these industries brought to people struggle and unrest, like extrajudicial killings and massacres, militarizations, threats, harassment, intimidations, abduction to mostly peasant leaders and organizers, and just detained for trump-up charges, red tagging to peasant indigenous leaders, union members, and progressive groups. Am I anti-logging, anti-mining, or pro-logging, pro-mining? That issue is no longer an issue for me. As we face the climate emergency, my stand is this: when I talk to officials, when I talk to mining operators, can you stop expanding? Let the remaining forest be a forest, and let the remaining lands, which is not where you did not touch, can we reserve that, reforest it, and can we reserve that for the next generation? This is the resisting expansion of agricultural plantations and mining operations. And with this COVID-19, not only Philippines is opening for mining to recover economically, and we are made to think that the pandemic is a state of exemption that allows us to let go of our environmental stewardship, our sense of social justice. That's why we MSCs, you are very strong in this advocacy to bring out and creating our action and bring out the voice of the voiceless. That activism is not terrorism. And this moment or this period of our time in our history, this is a time for us to dialogue, to talk with other organizations, to connect with indigenous people, to connect with people in authority, and discuss what is happening to our land, what is happening to the world, what is happening to our climate. So this is a period of dialoguing with other people and groups. This was that picture that I showed you a while ago during the displacements of the Lumad. I was there. Let me show you this.
Hangtod ka na sa amo dinhi. Hangtod nga na ay mga sundalo dito sa mga komunidad sa kabutiran. Magpabilin gid ning mangita og mga safety nga lugar. Dili lang pud mi magpabilin din sa Sitagol. Hindi mangita gid mi og safety nga lugar nga mga lugar nga mudawat sa among presensya para sa safety kanang kasiguruhan sa among kinabuhi. Ang among dikit nga mulambo ang among kaugalingon. Lumad naningkamot mi nga dili mi mahimong problema sa gobyerno. Naningkamot mi nga mulambo ang among kaugalingong sistema sa pagdumala sa ekonomiya ug sa kultura. Og ang among gikinabuhi namo ang abunda, malipayon ug gawasnon dito sa among mga komunidad nga diin ang among komunidad daw paraiso ang pagtan-aw sa tanan nga mga nakaabot dito sa among mga komunidad. Apan pagbakwit sa kanila sa resulta yang katawang lumad hatagan ko sayop ang giingon sa atong presidente. Manang makaingon mi nga walay si bisan kinsa nga presidente nga adunay katungod nga mangita og investors para ipahilo na sa among mga yutang kabilin tungod kay gigamit namo kini gikan pa sa among mga katigulangan. Gusto lang namo kini kalambo Ang pagbumili sa pagsulod sa mga makaguba nga kompanya, makaguba sa kinaiyahan, kini ang resulta sa among kahimtang nga diha sa among pagpanalipod ug pag-amping sa mga matahom nga minugna sa Dios, nahimong daw gisilutan kami ni ining malisod nga kahimtang.
So that's a simple expression of an indigenous people who were displaced because of mining operations. So how do we respond in an emergency situation? As the Pope declares that we are in a climate emergency. And we can keep acting as if this isn't an urgent matter of life and death. And we know that every superstorm in the world today has a fingerprint of climate change. And I'm talking in the Philippines in particular, that UN said that, or the UN Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said that the Philippines is visited by an average of 25 typhoons and has 21 active volcanoes with regular earthquake threats. Extreme flooding and extreme drought is now a regular occurrence. And we are one of the most disaster-prone countries in the world, fourth among 180 nations in the Global Climate Risk Index over a 20-year period. So you'd think we'd be well prepared to handle this disaster? I'm sure you'll not be surprised to find out we aren't. Let's watch this.
We fell asleep in one world and woke up in another. Suddenly Disney is out of magic. Paris is no longer romantic. New York doesn't stand up anymore. The Chinese wall is no longer a fortress. And Mecca is empty. Hugs and kisses suddenly become weapons, and not visiting parents and friends becomes an act of love. Suddenly you realize that power, beauty, and money are worthless and can't get you the oxygen you're fighting for. The world continues its life, and it is beautiful. It only puts humans in cages. I think it's sending us a message. You are not necessary. The air, earth, water, and sky, without you are fine. When you come back, remember that you are my guests, not my masters.
Oh, buminya berbicara. Anda bukan tamu.
So in this only blue planet, after all, we are all just guests. We don't have any right
Kita
to
semuanya
abuse
tamu di dalam bumi ini.
anything on this blue planet. We don't have any right to abuse if you know that we are only just a guest. Simply put, to abuse the earth is to abuse ourselves. To protect and love the earth is to protect ourselves. And we need to see with the eyes of faith the beauty of God's saving plan to link between the natural environment and the dignity of the human person. We cannot separate that. The word ecology and economy is like a twin word. Came from Greek with the root word echo, meaning to say oikos, home or household. Logi or logos means knowledge, and nomos means management. Therefore, ecology means knowledge of household, and economy means management of household. But for a Greek mind, they have a very inclusive understanding of oikos. Oikos for them, where the living room is there, the kitchen, the bedroom. But for us outside Greek minds, oikos for us is not only limited in that household. We consider the earth is oikos of different species, living organisms, flora and fauna, including people. So why should we be surprised to see that the world economy is in a mess? It is in a mess because the managers of the world economy don't know what they are managing. And too many universities in every country around the world teach economic without teaching ecology. So it is a problem of our entire ecological system. Our focus has shifted from the management of the earth home to the management of money and finance in the interest of a particular group of people rather than in the interest of all members of the earth's household. Ecology and economy, if we were to meditate on the original and actual meaning of the word, we will soon realize that economy is just a subsidiary of ecology. Without ecology, there is no economy. So schools and universities around the world, economy is taught as if there is no connection between economy and ecology. Let me bring you back to our Mindanao situation, where we are, where I am based now. We considered as Mindanao as a food basket of the country because of the fertile land that we have. But at this very moment, ATM, at the moment, I always ask people or friends, can we consider still Mindanao as the food basket of the country? Banana plantations in particular. For more than 4 decades, the transnational corporations managing our lands here because of this monoculture plantations. This is the way they practice farming. And each part of the banana plant is infused with chemicals to maintain its flawless export quality. Otherwise, the importing country may return the bananas. And an unsafe and hazardous working condition, workers complain of headaches, dizziness, tightening of the chest, sore throat, and stomach pains due to chemical exposure. And the chemicals applied vary from week to week so that the insects do not develop immunity from these chemicals. And our workers are exposed to highly toxic chemical on a daily basis, yet they are not provided with proper and adequate PPEs. So PPEs for us here are not only for medical use, but it's necessity in our farms, for our farmers. And now here we are, the Panama disease. For more than 3 decades, that our soil were poisoned. The soil don't give any more life. And when I visited this place, farmers told me that if a bird can take a worm there, just a matter of minutes, the birds fell and dead because of that toxic poison. And let me go back here. In this particular situation also, when I visited them, because the truck vans were already there to pick up these bananas, and then they pack it, they soak it first in the chemical solutions, and then they make a blower on it to dry it, and then pack it well with plastics, and then in a box. And then after loading all these bananas to the truck, and I talked to these people. I asked them, what will you do with these chemical solutions, water chemical solutions? And they told me, sir, we will just throw it away there. And how about these materials, these containers that you use? How will you clean it up? Sir, we will just go down the river and wash it there. Oh no, that's how it is. And we are facing the African swine fever, the ASF, and now we are still in this pandemic. The problem is globalized. A while ago, I said that the problem is structural and spiritual, cultural.
Is it this simple an equation? Do deforestation and indiscriminate industrialization equal a pandemic? Because when people push into forests and live too close to animals and hunt them down, diseases cross or jump from human to animal. COVID-19 began with bats in a market in Wuhan, China. So, does the answer to stopping future pandemics lie in efforts to protect rainforests and arrest climate change now, not later, now? A CNN report quoting a multidisciplinary group of scientists estimates that a global investment of $30 billion a year, that's a little over 1.5 trillion pesos, into projects to protect rainforests, stop wildlife trade and farming would be enough to offset the costs of future pandemics. The amount too high, you say? The IMF estimates this COVID-19 pandemic will cost $28 trillion in lost output over the next 5 years. Let's put those numbers front and center, side by side, and make it as visual as possible. $30 billion a year, as opposed to $28 trillion for 5 years. Not hard to see which one weighs more heavily, right? Because when we protect forests, we protect humanity.
So the way we approach problem in this time of pandemic, what are we protecting for? Business or environment? So why do we have a problem? Because our system becomes systemic, our structure becomes structural, culture becomes cultural, spirit becomes spiritual, and global becomes globalized. Therefore, my suggestion is that our approach must be integral. And what is integral? Integral ecology. The term integral is become now ecclesiastical term, you know? But it was originated in mathematical terms, as a mathematical term. What the term integer? What are the integer numbers? What are integer numbers? Hello, sisters, brothers. Can you type it? Can you type your answer at the chat box? Can you still remember? Can you still remember your mathematical lesson? What are integer numbers? Any answer? Oh no, you forgot. You forgot already? Yes, Carrie. Integer numbers are whole numbers. A number that is not a fraction or a decimal, not a half or not 1.5, not 0.003, whole number, whole. And we are in this situation, in this phenomenon that we have a climate emergency. And the Laudato Si, the whole chapter of the document of the Laudato Si is intended for integral ecology. That it says there in paragraph number 70, everything is interconnected and interrelated with one another. And genuine care of our own lives and our relationship with nature are inseparable from fraternity, justice, and faithfulness to others. In other words, it means ecology includes everything that exists in the environment, society, culture, economics, political, moral, spiritual aspects. This is how we should approach the problem on ecology. It must be integral. Therefore, the understanding of the integral ecology approaching this problem, it needs what we call the conversion of the heart of the one who caused this problem. We know we have this climate emergency because of human activities. The world has its own way of conversion. It will heal its wounds by itself. But if the one who inflicted this wound will not be converted, things will get worse. And this integral ecology of eco-conversion must start in our very own selves, the personal level of conversion. And then I hope that personal conversion may transcend into a communal conversion until this conversion is an ongoing conversion. And the process and our commitment for conversion must not be a 0.5, half, 3.5%, no. It needs a whole commitment. I am very much fun with this little girl, Greta Thunberg. Hello, kindly unmute your.
Sa pilpa kay didto mi man nakasakuan dong sa
Cirilla, i-mute
dili
ka.
ka na kanang
Pag-mute ka, Cirilla.
Unmute, please. Okay. Let's take the case of Greta Thunberg. He's fighting for the right of the future, and state in action on climate change violate children's rights. That's very clear. And this is as a salute to Thunberg with her courage and determination. At a very early age, she shakes the world. And another case that I want to share with you is the Oposa and versus Factoren on this is a landmark decision of the Supreme Court of the Philippines, which recognizes the doctrine of intergenerational responsibility on the environment in the Philippine legal system. The case is a contributor to the development of the international environmental law. I am very, very proud of this law because the term intergenerational responsibility is started in the Philippines and the whole world adopt this international environment as international environmental law. One of the best thing that the Philippines contributed to the whole world in addressing this problem. Because of that Oposa and versus Factoren Supreme Court decision, the term intergenerational responsibility came to birth and adopted by the whole world. And Attorney Oposa said that how are we able to protect our environment for the younger generation yet to come? And the petitioner asserted that they represent their generation as well as generations yet to come, meaning to say, those people yet unborn, they have already the right at this very moment about the kind of the world that they have, that they will get into. And the court further elicited that every generation has the responsibility to the next to preserve that rhythm and harmony of the full enjoyment of the balance and healthful ecology. And in the document Laudato Si, Pope Francis is asking, what kind of the world are we leaving to the next generation? For the Pope himself, he said that intergenerational solidarity is not optional, but rather a basic issue of justice, since the world we have received also belongs to the world who will follow us. An integral ecology is marked by this broader vision. It's, I say, the documents really fascinated me, you know, like this pronouncement of the CBCB Pastoral Letter on Ecology. And lately, the COP26 was held in Glasgow. And one of my masses, I asked the parishioners, do you have any idea about COP26? And then the parishioner said, oh, for COP26, there are the policemen who's running the drug dealers or the drug addicts. COP26. We have, here in the Philippines, we have a war on drugs. So what comes first in their mind about COP26 are what we call the tokhang, or the administration's way of addressing our problem on drugs. But COP26 refers to the 26th conference of the parties of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, where world officials gathered and discussed the way forward in stemming the worst impact of the climate crisis. The Philippines brought 19 representatives in this conference, but they were all from the finance department. What happened to the COP26? Countries made a big pledges and announcement to phase out coal and fossil fuels investments, reduce methane emissions, and save forests. And more than 40 countries have gathered to end coal power by 2030 for major economies and by 2040 for poor countries. But political promises are not enough to spare vulnerable countries like Philippines from the impact of climate change. The planet will experience more extreme weather, rising seas, droughts, flooding, heat waves, and fiercer typhoons that would impact the lives of millions of people and kill off scores of animal species. And this is my emphasis. I want to emphasize this, that we Philippines in the third world country, every time there's a typhoon, there's a catastrophes, we receive aids from first world countries. But these finance are not aid. It is not death we owe. And according to Yeb Sanyo, the executive director of Greenpeace in Asia, said that climate finance is an obligation of rich countries under the Paris Agreement and a moral consequence of the benefits they have enjoyed from burning of fossil fuels and early industrialization driven by their exploitation and subjugation of the global south. The most affected and the one who first suffer of the consequence of this climate emergency are the poor. And we don't owe any aid, financial aid, from these first world countries. As we know, that first world countries who polluted more, you have greater responsibility in which you must lead the whole world in this fight. As I love the African proverbs said that one thing to remember, the world is not ours. We borrowed it from the next generation. So as a church, what is the stand of the church when it comes to social justice? In a very simplified term, social justice is all about defend life by all means. And what are the church teachings or the teachings of the church through the encyclicals of the popes? We have the Rerum Novarum by Pope Leo XIII, calling it the cornerstone for more than centuries of Catholic social teachings. This encyclical lifted up the dignity of the worker in the midst of massive economic changes. And Pope Leo XII taught that there is a natural right to join a union that government must protect. Pope Leo's successors like John Paul II and Benedict XVI have reaffirmed this right. And now we have the Laudato Si of Pope Francis. And if there is a core message, the core message of this document, I want to emphasize it in paragraph number 16 because of the throwaway culture and the proposal of a new lifestyle. And the Pope is very serious about this. As he said, please continue to work the radical change which present circumstances require, for injustice is not invisible. And the destruction of nature is a modern sin, and brutal consumerism is destroying our planet. And greed has no place in a just, equitable, green, and safe world. Let's watch this.
2020 has turned all our lives upside down. It's brought terrible suffering and loss, but it's reminded us what matters most, the health and safety of the people around us. It's also shown us what we risk when we upset the delicate balance between people and planet. And we cannot afford to simply go back to the way things were before the pandemic. That's why WHO has published a manifesto with 6 steps to take to ensure a healthy and green recovery from COVID-19. 1, to cherish and protect the source of all human health, the natural world. 2, to invest in vital life-saving services like access to water and sanitation and clean energy in healthcare facilities. 3, to quickly transition to clean, renewable sources of energy. 4, to switch to healthy and sustainable food systems. 5, to make all our towns and cities green and healthy. And 6, to shift from an economy driven by profit and pollution to an economy driven by fairness and well-being. We know what we need to do. We have the tools to do it. Let's work together now to create a healthier and greener world.
See, the WHO's recommendations. These 6 recommendations are very much grounded in the environment, protecting the environment, making it healthy. This is for us to recover in this crisis. And we know the answer. We know the answer. WHO never said that mining is recovery. To destroy more the earth is a way to recovery. And yeah, to this approach, we must be grounded in the teachings of the church on social justice. And the recovery must be in a package deal, like integral. It must be integral. It must not be only this community will do that. Only this country has to work on that. Only on this part. No. Even our minds, even our thoughts, even our action, we must be one. We must be integral in approaching or giving solution to our problems. And what are the principles of justice and peace as our church being grounded with this teaching? First, the human dignity. I will not explain it anymore. The common good, the solidarity, the option for the poor, the subsidiarity, right to private property. And because of our sinful situation, the teaching of the church on social justice considered as the most radical and best secret teaching of the church. As Pope Francis said, how do we truly realize that something is wrong in a world where there are so many farm workers without land, so many families without a home, so many laborers without rights, so many person whose dignity is not respected? social justice. In a society in which, in a sinful society, the call is social justice. Let's watch this news.
Samantala, mistulang binatikos ni Prince William ang mga space exploration ng mga bilyonaryo sa mundo. Anya, dapat ituon ang kanilang yaman at talino sa pagligtas sa mundo at hindi sa pamamasyal sa kalawakan. May report si Ron Gagalak.
Habang patuloy na nasusunog ang southern coast ng California, bumabagsak naman sa Sydney, Australia, ang malalaking tipak ng niebe o hail. Sa southern Iraq, malawakang tagtuyot naman ang nagaganap na pinakamalala sa nakalipas na 40 taon. Habang sa Pilipinas at sa China, binaha ng matindi ang maraming lugar dahil sa lakas ng ulan dala ng bagyong Kompasu. Ganon din sa Mexico, kung saan naman sila hinahambalos ng Hurricane Pamela. Pero kasabay ng mga kalamidad na ito, namasyal sa kalawakan ang aktor na si William Shatner, sakay ng Blue Origin rocket ship na pagmamay-ari ng American billionaire na si Jeff Bezos. Si Shatner ang sinasabing pinakamatandang nakarating sa outer space sa edad na 90.
What you have given me is the most profound experience I can have. I'm so filled with emotion about what just happened. It's extraordinary.
Pero ayon kay Prince William, ang Duke of Cambridge ng Great Britain, ang talino at perang ginamit sa mga space travel na ganito ay mas maganda sanang gamitin para iligtas ang mundo sa lumalalang epekto ng climate change.
We need some of the world's greatest brains and minds fixed on trying to repair this planet, not trying to find the next place to go and live.
Inaambisyon kasi ng mga bilyonaryong tulad ni Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk at Richard Branson ang makarating sa ibang planeta kung maaaring tirahan ito ng tao. Ayon kay Prince William, nakakabahala na tila walang masyadong pagbabago sa ginagawa ng mundo para solusyonan ang climate change na naglilikha ng mas malalakas na bagyo, mas mahabang tagtuyot at mas matinding taglamig.
You know, we are seeing a rise in climate anxiety. You know, young people now are growing up where their futures are basically being threatened the whole time. It's very unnerving and it's very, you know, anxiety making.
Sa Washington DC, nagprotesta naman ang global activist group na AVAAS. Panawagan nila sa mayayamang bansa tulad ng Amerika at Canada maglaan ng malaki-laking pondo para labanan ng climate change. Hindi naman daw kasi nasusunod ang napagkasundoang $100 billion a year na ilalaan ng mga bansang ito batay sa Paris Climate Agreement. Ron Gagalak, Omni News Filipino.
Samantala,
so I made this artwork 4 years ago, showing how to our journey to lessen the carbon footprints. That in 2030 is the tipping point, and in 2040 is irrevocable damage. When we reach the another 1.5 degrees centigrade temperature. And it seems that we're running out of time. As the Pope said, time was running out for mankind to save the planet from the potentially devastating effects of global warming. If I will not do something and you will not do something, who? And if not now, when? This way, integral ecology or these things, this topic, it is not just timely, it is not just because of the Laudato Si. There is an urgency. There is, I remember when we are in an Advent season, how John the Baptist become, how his pronouncements become prophetic. It is because of the urgency that the time has come. Return to God and repent your sins. That conversion call. And this is how significant this issue. And the prophetic impact of this topic, it is because we are running out of time, and the time has come, and we know only 12 years from now we will be reaching the tipping point. When I was assigned here in Mindanao 4 years ago, we established the new ministry, the Center for the Poor. And when I reported first year of existence of the center, I reported what is happening to the center. And one of my conference said, Rich, who are the poor? And when I heard that, my feeling was different, because I thought we MSCs have this, when we crafted and when we envisioned to have a new ministry on environment, on issue, on ecology, I thought we're in the same mind. But with that question, I asked my conference, if you're understanding the poor are the Lumads, the indigenous people, the abandoned children, the people in the slums or in squatter areas, the poor are the vendors, the poor are the farmers, the fisher folks. I told him, you are only seeing the tip of the iceberg, because the poor is the world itself. We lost the wealth of the earth, the wealth of the forest, the wealth of the ocean, the wealth of the rivers, the wealth of our soil. We lost it. That's why the poor is the world itself. And this Laudato Si documents challenges us to hear the cry of the earth, for the cry of the earth is the cry of the poor. And we must be reminded that our own survival is intrinsically connected to the well-being of the planet. This means ending the cry of the poor within planetary boundaries and placing human dignity at the heart of our policy and action. This issue entails political will. This issue entails a radical move from bottom to top. In Tagalog, we call it, ang daing ng lupa ay daing ng dukha. The cry of the poor is the cry of the earth. That's why we are calling for environmental justice. And what are we doing here in Mindanao? What are the things that we can share in a little way in healing this wounded earth. We developed or we created from MSC Center for the Poor, it gave birth to MSC Sipago, the MSC Missionaries of the Sacred Heart Agriculture Cooperative. And we are promoting natural, sustainable, modern farming techniques, post-harvest production intervention, and the farm-to-table marketing strategy. And we call ourselves the missionary co-op with two faces, like two sides of the coin. The Center for the Poor on a charity and advocacy, and the Sipago on sustainability, fair trade, business, enterprise. And lately, we were granted certifications and authority to operate as a learning site of the Department of Agriculture and as a farm school of Technical Education Skills Development Authority, or the TESTA, on organic agriculture production. And with these privileges that we have, we hold on with our identity that we must be a school of love. So why school of love? Because from the tiniest seeds up to a grown plants or trees, from the smallest specimen of eggs until becomes full-grown animals. These are all this process happened because of the tender love and care of nature, of a mother nature, and of course, with the help also of a responsible steward. This way, in our farm, we do it that way, as we call for justice to the farmers. As the farmers cry, we're the one planting, but we're the one who do not have food. And as we journey together with the farmers and the indigenous people, we see that in the word agriculture, there's no problem with agri, but there's so much problem in the culture, meaning to say on our part, on the part of the farmers. And with other issues politically and economically as branded as terrorists or rebels or leftists or whatever. These are the simplest, as we engage and very much involved with the farmers, we see that farmers were just very simple people who live out the prayer that the Lord Jesus taught us. Give us this day our daily bread. Daily bread. And once in our life, we need a doctor, a lawyer, a policeman, a preacher, but every day, 3 times a day, we need a farmer. And how modern we become without them. There is no food, no farmers, no food. That's why we have to support our local farmers. And we must look forward and work for a just, equitable, judicious use of natural and human resources. As lately, we had 3 or 4 international webinars, and as we reached a large audience over many countries, and it was well appreciated with good feedbacks and evaluation in terms of meeting the goals of the Laudato Si. The response to the cry of the earth, response to the cry of the poor, ecological economics, adaptation of simple lifestyle, ecological education, ecological spirituality, and community engagement and participatory action. And we are in full blast of implementing our environmental management system programs to exposure risk, and developing our organic products, producing products without harming the planet, and making our own R&Ds, research development, and enriching our the soil, and introducing an alternative model of agriculture production and marketing system that is sustainable, income generating, and just. And since COVID outbreak, we were able to plant and harvest pink rice, red, pink, black rice, and adlai rice. And we see that we must be able to save and use the traditional corn and vegetable seeds varieties that are not dependent on heavy chemical input, and creating IGPs or generating income projects and other efforts that raise the quality of the life of the poor, promote and work of a technology that is appropriately ecologically balanced and safe. And the farm to table shared economy, or the farm to table connection, we pass by the middlemen or the traders, and we call ourselves the green producers. We bring our produce to the green producer, from green producers to green consumers. And now we are on this road to how to be a food security frontliner in the midst of pandemic and even beyond pandemic, as we promote the food sovereignty and zero waste. The nature is designed as a zero waste system. That every output is someone else's input. There is no such thing as waste in nature. By contrast, the human economy is full of waste, waste that is produced while sourcing from nature, and only tiny fractions of our waste are being cycled back into a closed loop systems of reuse. That's why here at the center, we are practicing the best green practices from 3 hours to 4 hours, and now it's 9 hours. This is one of our projects on how to live out the zero waste program. We wash, clean, and dry, and then shred it, and then make it as a bricks. And the center's operation is like a railway operating system. As we address the daily needs of the farmers, we address also the attitude or the culture. That's why the ongoing formation at the center is we make emphasis on that. As we listen to their dreams, we listen to their stories, to their struggles. We do trainings and learn from each other. We have also our services on spiritual is part of this. You must touch the heart of every exposurist or student that come to the center. And the sustainable technology, we fabricate machines for our very own use or purpose. And we are establishing or cultivating areas, collective farmers and co-ops. And we have this demo farms and the one-stop shop post-harvest facility. It was just a dream to have a solar dryer, mechanical dryer, rice mill. And in just a matter of year, we're able to realize it. And with the help of our collaborations with other groups and with the government, with all the people joining us in a cooperative. And because this is the problem the farmers, local farmers. They have already the harvest, but because of the post-harvest expenses. Yeah. So that's why we established this post-harvest facility. And now we have, this is at this moment, we have this machineries to help the farmers. And part of the post-harvest program is the food processing, of our organic products. And we have to make it, make sure that it's organic, no chemical added or preservatives in our products. Even our scholars here in Butuan and in Sur, we developed food. Since pandemic, we experienced lockdowns, and our scholars were the one who developed food process for deliveries, and yeah, this becomes now a livelihood. And when the DOST, Department of Science and Technology, saw what we are doing, and they were impressed with the kind of activities that we have, then they offered that to give us machineries, all brand new, and we made a contract with them. And our products were being brought to the Lumad or communities, the indigenous people who are affected by COVID, by conflicts and disasters. Yeah. So Laudato Si goals for us is not a 1 year, every year one goal. No, we should hit the 7 goals. It's like hitting 7 birds by 1 stone. That's our goal. In every action, in every program that we implement at the center, it must hit these 7 goals of Laudato Si. This must be integrated. This must be integral. This must be holistic. And we call it the developing advocacy. As this topic has get into this struggle, get into this difficult implementation, we called it still as an advocacy. And for us, you've got to find what you love. For your work is going to feel a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And the Center for the Poor creates an institutional infrastructure that would allow us to operate from the same deep source and a collective systems level. And if there is a mystic message of Laudato Si, mystic, that can be found in paragraph 222. Less is more. Less is more. And this is a time for us to unify, make our common goal, our common plan, and to unite is our best weapon to save our home, Earth. And we at the Center for the Poor, we believe that we are all connected and that by helping another, we help ourselves. Each individual can make a commitment to work towards the common goal. As individuals, our personal contribution may be small, but when united in common cause, we can change the world. Let us reshape our planet, revolutionizing sustainable lifestyle of today to a much better future, starting with ourselves. As Pope Francis said, letter to consecrated people, I expect you from what I have asked all the members of the church, clergy and lay people, to come out of yourselves and go forth to the existential peripheries. Go into the world. These were the last words which Jesus spoke to his followers and which he continues to address to us. The whole world awaits us. Men and women who have lost all hope, lost family in difficulties, abandoned children, young people without a future, the elderly, sick and abandoned, those who are rich in the world's good, but impoverished within, men and women looking for a purpose in life, thirsting for the divine. Don't be closed in yourselves. Don't be stifled in petty squabbles. Don't remain a hostage of your own problems. This will be resolved if you go forth and help others to resolve their own problems and proclaim the good news. You will find life by giving life. You will find hope by giving hope, and love by giving love. What a beautiful words of our Pope. And for us MSCs, discerning and reading the signs of our times, let me quote from the General Chapter 2011. Inspired by the spirituality of the heart, we want to risk embracing the challenges presented to us by the changing social and cultural environment of our time, in solidarity with those people and situations that are most marginalized and depersonalized, while discerning new missions that are responsive and attentive to contemporary issues. We also need to reevaluate the effectiveness of our current ministries. Let's connect the dots from our very own Constitution and statutes. Like him, we are sent into the world. We will be attentive to our founder, as our founder was, to those who suffer and are in need, in the poor and the little ones, in all the victims of injustice and violence. We will discover the face of Christ. He asks us to bring his love into our lives. Before I end this sharing, can you join me, please, in prayer?
Pero ni minsan, di naging maramot ang mundo. Hindi naging pangusga, patas kung siya'y magmahal. Madalas sinasaktan, ngunit nakakapagpatawad. Madalas iniiyong sugatan, pero nagtitiis. Subalit hanggang kailan ba natin mararamdaman na ang mundo ay pagod na rin? Ipagdarasal ko na sana maghihilom lalim ng sugat nito upang manumbalik ang ganda ng sagradong paraiso.
Nagsusumamo itong damdamin nadalangin ko'y iyong dinggin na muling diligan ng sagradong ulan ang mga pinhing pinagdadamutan. Diyos Ama, ala, magbabaya kabunihan. Dunda ang panguyo, pindugan nga ang takasakit matambalan. Kapobrihon, kagutom, kawadon o katalagman. Nagsusumamo itong damdamin, nadalangin ko'y iyong dinggin na muling diligan ng sagradong ulan mga bining pinagdadamutan. Palayain, 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 lupain, pinamana, palayain, nililaso ng mga panilang pag-asa. Gamit kritikal, maling teknolohiya, naliwanagan, kapatid kong magsasaka. Sumamo itong damdamin, nadalangin ko'y iyong dinggin na muling diligan ng sagradong ulan ang mga binhing pinagdadamutan. Ihunghung ko sa mga hangin itong aking daing, magbunga sana mataimtim kong panalangin. Pagmamahal, pagpapakumbaba, kaligayahan sa kapwa, muling yayabong at maghahari, palay na mapayapa.
Thank you. That ends my presentation.
So, thank you, Richie, for your wonderful presentation. But we have still some more time left off. So maybe I ask the group to sit with for a few minutes to hear and to integrate what you have heard, to digest what you have heard. There's a quite lot in it. So maybe just sit sometime with these thoughts and reflections and your sharing. Maybe I would invite the group, the members, to share their thoughts, their reflections. So what has touched their heart? That's okay. Maybe this is a time to just spend in silence, a few minutes, and you're free to share your thoughts and reflections and comments, whatever has touched our hearts. Thank you.
Can we request the people who are not using their video, if it is all right, that you come out with your video so we can see each other as a community of believers. Ray Tibon, nawala ka. Thank you.
So may I invite our members of Chevelle family to share your thoughts, your reflections, and your comments.
Sister Sophie, I think the friends of Richie are also with us. So
Okay.
they are also invited to share with their reflections or their thoughts.
Yeah, I welcome the friends of Father Richie. They're also welcome in sharing your thoughts and what has touched you. Thank you. Thank you, Ben.
Father Richie, may I?
Hey, yes. Brad Chato, yes.
Kumusta na? Long time no see. Actually, I have a question, Father.
Okay.
I live in a concrete jungle. Almost no place to plant anything, except in pots. No? And the backyard is all concrete. Our front is concrete. And then the street is concrete wall. No more place to plant anything. But in general, we have been segregating nabubulok and di nabubulok. No? And is there anything else we can do here in this concrete jungle that can be in line with what you are doing?
Yeah. That's a good challenge. Wherever we are all affected. We are all affected by climate change, by this phenomena. No exemption. Much more in the cities. You know, the level of awareness is very important. This way, one of the goals of the Laudato Si is on ecological education. Educating our very own selves that every time we throw our garbage, we throw our problem to other people. There's a simple awareness that we will not be a contributor of. How can we be a person not to contribute more pain, more harm to our world, to the environment? And small things counts. Small things counts, I believe. So simple gardening, maybe, witnessing of segregation. That's very good. You started it already, and yeah, the throwing of our waste let's always remember that every time we throw our waste, we throw our problem to other people. And it follows, I believe, when we have this consciousness about environment, about taking care, as to take care of the environment, it take care of ourselves. We have also like mga urban gardening, go for it. Simple lifestyle, even in the midst of commercialistic lifestyle. How can we reduce consumption on energy? Turning off lights when it's not needed, and if it is cool in a way where we should use aircon. It's consciousness. It follows.
Thank you, Richie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
Sister Jenny, there is a hand up. Sister Jenny. Yes, sister, please. Unmute, sister, please. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much to give me opportunity to say something. My reflection about the needs. We are living in the different part. Some community are in the village, some community are in the small town, some community are in the capital city. So if we find the needs of the people, we need to separate them, maybe from education, from the sick people, or from the needs of the social. And we need to discuss together in the community. What is the need? How can we help for the poor people? If the school, we need to ask them, how can we help them to go to school? Maybe pay for the school fees. Who will we pay? If in the hospital, we need to bring the sick people. Who will we pay? How long they will be in the hospital? If the need for the help for the government, who will we confirm? Who will we ask the government for help? Because it is not easy, but we need to discuss together how to manage it. So the poor people must live in peace, and they will find the better life about our approach. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, that's a beautiful reflection, sister. The way we respond, because it's the problem is so integral, you know. The problem is it's interrelated, no? From economic to spiritual to health issue to everything, and it boils down into the deterioration of the integrity and the life of the people, not only the people, but the environment and all well-being. As Mahatma Gandhi said, the world is more than enough. The world's resources is more than enough, but not enough for the greedy people. This way, the conversion, you know, the call for conversion, the call for witnessing, the call for prophetic ministry, it our very own resources. Your time, maybe your talent, your advocacy, the product of your garden, a little gesture of kindness As I have shown you, billionaires spend their money for themselves. And that's not social justice. Social justice is sharing our very own gesture of kindness that will change, that will give transformative event of the people in their lives. They have a lot of resources, but see how they spend the resources. But for us, Chevrolet family, yes, we need resources. We need funds. We need money. We need, yeah, we have a lot of needs, but it doesn't stop us to extend gestures of kindness to other people. Thank you.
Richie, Basindunay, there might be some comments in the chat box.
Yep.
Yeah, you might be able to.
Yeah, we also have a social responsibility to the rich, of course, and to our benefactors, that they will hear the cry of the poor and the cry of creation. It's true. It's true. As the church, as the PCP2 documents that in Bisaya we call it walay adunahan nga walay panginahanglan ug walay kabus nga walay ikahatag. Father Ben, can you translate that in English? Walay kabus nga walay ikahatag ug walay adunahan nga walay panginahanglan.
No one is so rich that he doesn't need anything. Yes. And no one is so poor that he's not able to give.
Exactly. Yeah. That is grounded in our being the church of the poor. Thank you, Father Ben.
You're welcome.
I just would like to thank Father Richie and the MSC congregation for inviting me. Listening to Father Richie and watching the presentation, it breaks my heart. And it's really painful to see poverty and makes me think that maybe someday I want to visit the farm and do something for the poor. I am working now at LGU Cordova here in Cebu, but there are so many problems here I am facing every day, handling children victims of abuse. And I have been an advocate of the environment. And I really wanted families, because they're very hungry, I really wanted them to do the urban gardening, but it seems that they don't understand what that is. I cannot promise that I will stay long here, but I have that feeling and longing to visit the farm in Surigao and, taste the fruits of the farmers. So I used to work with the farmers before, which Farmers Development Center. So it brings back memories, because majority of the farmers that I helped were killed because they were like branded to be the left people on the left. And I can empathize how people in Mindanao are, especially the farmers. So thank you, Father Richie, and I saw Father Ben. It's been a long time. Thank you so much for inviting
Thank
me.
you.
See you soon.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're always welcome to visit Butuan.
Yeah.
I'll wait for that. I'll wait for that moment
Thank
when
you.
things become more normal. Thank you. There is in the chat box, Sally. Thank you very much for this really challenging presentation. You are really contributing so much to the lives of the people around you. You are truly there with the people living out your MSc commitment. Amateur. Thank you. Thank you, Sally. And to Sister Ellie, thank you very much for this rich conference. I am very impressed by what you are doing. I think for our conference together, we can expand on what we as Chibali family can do concretely. In January, I will send you my reflections for discussion. Thanks. Thanks once more. Greetings from Sister Ellie in Rome. And from Jean, Sister Jean, thank you very much for the Richie. Anyway, there's no question here.
I think you're coming to the close of our webinar. So Father Richie, a sincere thanks and appreciation comes from our hearts for your inspiring and enriching presentation. You have instilled in us what is our role and responsibility in taking care of the earth and preserving its beauty and richness. Given us some tips how to touch the hearts of the people. Some of the questions you posed before us is challenging. Of course, we have no answer. Like how are able to protect our environment for the younger generation yet to come? Or the Pope's question, what kind of world are we leaving behind the next generation? It's quite challenging and it's very responsible. We also hear the invitation to live on the Laudato Si message, that is, less is more. And I am sure, as I was going through the some news of the Miss Universe, you also must have watched that program. And the question was asked, the Miss Universe, they have a few questions. So one question was that many people think climate change is a hoax. What would you think to convince them otherwise? It is asked to Miss India, Miss Universe India. So her answer, it was really, I felt it was really apt for today's our session. I would like to bring to your notice, you must have heard, her answer was, she said, honestly, my heart breaks to see the nature is going through a lot of problems. And it is all due to our irresponsible behavior, and feel that this is our time to take actions and talk less. Because our action should either kill or save nature. And she also said, that was more beautiful, prevent and protect is better than repent and repair. So she said, I am trying to convince this today to the people. So I thought it was really fitting for our session, like it is preventing and protection is better than repent and repair. With this message, I thank all our Chevalier family members and the friends of Father Richie on behalf of the Corvita team taking part in this webinar. This is our last webinar. Your support, your participation, your presence and sharing. So I wish you all on behalf of the team, Father Ben Alforque and Sister Kathy, a blessed Christmas a happy new year and a happy holiday. We see you next year. Thank you very much for everybody. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can we have everybody's face so that we can have a picture taking with Brother Richie? Everybody's face first. Gogol, Sister Gretchen, Glenda, Sister Joy, Sister, okay, Maria Annalisa. Ready? Smile. One more. Yeah, smile. Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Lord.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank
Merry
you, Father Bob.
Christmas.
Yes.
See
Merry
you.
Christmas, everyone.
See you
Hi,
next,
Sister
see you next
Joy.
week.
See you next week.
The Butuan is waiting for you, for the bogey.
Yes. Hoy, take care sa Baguio. Take care.
Bye. Salamat.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Bye, Father Ben.
Ben.
Salamat ka, Rajaw.
Spaghetti.
See you.
Sophie.
Bye, Jean.
Salamat ka, Rajaw.
Selamat.
Leave. Okay.
Bye, Luciani.
Hi, Luciani. Mute. Nadengar.
Yes. Thank you very much, Sister Kathy,
Thank you.
Sister Sophie, Father
Yes.
Ben, Father
Thank
Rich
you.
for the presentation today. It's very
Yes, thank you.
enriching. Thank you
Good.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Thank
presence.
you. Katis, Father Ben,
Thank
Sophie,
you.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay.